In this video, I'm going to show you some simple ways to dehydrate herbs or whatever plants you would like to dehydrate, whether for food or for medicinal purposes. What you see before you, this is broadleaf plantain. The first way that I want to show you is the simplest way, it's the cheapest way, and it is just taking your plants, putting them on an elevated rack. And you can see this has little feet here. So it is elevated. You can see my fingers underneath it. So you want to dry your herbs elevated. That way it'll have a good airflow going under them and over them. Now, if you are drying herbs using a method like this, there are a few things that you could do a little differently depending on what you are drying and where you are drying it. Anything you are drying needs to stay dry. There does not need to be any added moisture or humidity. So depending on where I was drying this. So for example, if I am drying this in the kitchen and let's say the only place I have to dry it is, closer to the stove or closer to the sink to where it has a potential to get moisture on it, whether, oil from cooking or water from the sink. Granted, I don't do that. I will dry it in the kitchen on the island like this, but I do not dry it near any moisture. But let's just say that you had to, okay? You can cover this up with a butter muslin cloth or paper towels or some kind of thin cotton cloth. By covering it up with something like that, if moisture does, like little droplets of moisture, happen to fall in this general area, the cloth or paper towel will help to absorb it, okay? Now, if you are drying something that does not need direct sunlight, but maybe you have no choice and it has to be dried in an area that has direct sunlight, again, just cover it up with a cloth. That way you are not having direct sunlight on it. You can also use a cloth even if you don't have a problem with sunlight or with moisture. You can also use a cloth just to help keep it covered up from any, dust or, flies landing directly on it or anything that might fall onto it. So you can definitely use a cloth to help with that as well. Now, as far as where to store this while it is drying, it really depends on what time of the year you are drying it. So these things, they will dry faster the warmer it is, right? But you don't want it excessively hot. You don't want to cook your herbs or medicinal plants, whatever it is you're drying. You don't want to cook them and you don't want to overheat them to where they lose any, aromatic properties that they may have. For example, if you were to dry mint, you wouldn't want to dry it at such a high temperature that all the aromatics, the volatile oils from the mint actually evaporate. Then it's not any good. Okay, so depending on the season will depend on kind of where you have it. For us, where we live, basically all year long, I can dry them right here on my island in my kitchen all year long. But let's say you are in a colder climate or a wet climate, and maybe you heat with the wood stove, so parts of your house are cooler. If you need them to dry in a warmer area, just put them closer to the heat source, but not directly next to it. Maybe put them on top of a refrigerator or on top of a mantle or, just a few feet away from your wood stove or your heat source. So those are some things to keep in mind when using this. Now, if you don't have an elevated rack and you just lay these flat out on something, like you can even use a bed sheet or a butter muslin cloth and just place it down and put these directly on it, then every day just turn each of them, okay? That's all. That way it'll help to ensure even drying. It's also helpful if you have a fan going nearby or something just to help create, a draft, ventilation, airflow. And something else I will go ahead and insert in here is depending on what you are drying, some things you can actually dry outside in the sunlight, and that's fine. But just do your research on exactly what types of plants are okay to dry in direct sunlight. I personally don't dry anything in direct sunlight for a few different reasons. One, it's just always pretty windy here, and when I have tried it, the wind just scatters everything around. So we do this. All right, I'm going to show you a couple other ways that we dehydrate. Another more fixed way of drying herbs is something like this. This is our wall drying rack. My husband built this, and my sister, she printed on her Cricut machine the words Herb Market at the top. This was just built using odds and ends scrap pieces of material that we had. Okay, so it has 4 shelves and it is supported by chains, and you can actually unhook it if you want. All right, and these lift up and they can close up against the wall if you need them out of the way. As I was editing this video, I realized that I did show you how these trays will fold up, and you can see the chicken wire showing here, but I forgot to mention how they will also fold down. So you can see the screen is here. So they will fold up or they will fold down. And the top 2 still have things on them. But you can see how from a side view here, you can see that by folding them up or down, it kind of makes it flush against the wall. So if space is a problem for you, this thing that my husband built for me for Christmas of, I believe it was 2019, I just love it. He did such a wonderful job. Okay, and they are supported here with what you see right here is the window screen, because I wanted something fine that nothing would fall through, but I myself like chicken wire, so I wanted it to where if these are closed up, you could see the chicken wire underneath. Okay, so that's what it is. It's the window screen here and the chicken wire underneath. Later, added some kitchen twine here and these little strong paper clips. And what I use these for is if all these shelves are completely full and I still need to dry some things, then I can put certain things in those small brown paper sacks, and I'll just label the sacks and then clip them here along this. Okay? And then you will also see that we have some kitchen twine strung up and tied to the chains on both sides of this rack. Again, if everything is full, I will also use kitchen twine like this and to hang up and dry garlic or onions or, clumps of herbs, whatever else I need to. It's just extra space. So you always want to label what it is you're drying, because once they are dry, they can look pretty different and you might easily confuse them. Something that makes this drying rack in a good location is that there is no direct sunlight that gets to this, and we also have close by a dehumidifier that we use, and we also have a ceiling fan really close by as well, because when you dehydrate things, you want ventilation, you want airflow, and to remove the moisture from the air. All right, now let's look at a more expensive option. The last option I want to show you for drying herbs is a dehydrator. Just a little side note here, we do not own and we do not want to own a freeze dryer, never have, so you will not see a freeze dryer as an option in this video. The dehydrator that I have is an Excalibur. It is a 9 tray, and you can see the one that we purchased is the manual control. I have been wanting an Excalibur for 11 years, and I finally got it last year, so I've had this just a year now. Definitely worth the wait. And the reason I chose the manual knob is because my husband, he can fix absolutely anything. So if it's manual and something happens to this, he can fix it. Whereas he is more limited with fixing digital circuit board computer chip type things. He has fixed a couple of those items in the past, but manual options he can fix all day long, no problem whatsoever. So we did choose the manual option. We also purchased the glass door as an upgrade because I did want to be able to see through them instead of having to open the door. Also, this is just a quick little tip here. So my dehydrator has 9 trays. So I just use a wet erase or a dry erase marker, and on the clear door, I may have said glass, it's not glass, it's plastic. And on the clear door, I just label 1 through 9, the trays, and then I label what's in each tray. And I do that because as plants dry, sometimes they can look completely different than what they did when you put them in there. So currently we have some apple mint in here, and we have some common mallow leaves and flowers in here. We have mullein, and these are wild black raspberry leaves. And then more mullein and wild black raspberry leaves. And down here is some sage. I also, let me go ahead and mention, you'll see right here, there is this silicone tray, and I have one right here too. I purchased these silicone trays. They have a little lip here, a little wall, and I purchased them when I am dehydrating our eggs, and they work fantastic for that. If you're curious about dehydrating eggs, I will have a link in the description box below. But all sorts of things can be dehydrated or just simply dried. I do dehydrate fruits and vegetables and meats like jerky using this Excalibur as well. So thank you for watching, and I hope this video inspired you to go ahead and try some drying of herbs. It really doesn't require much or any expense to get started.